Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Sports Talk and the Success Table. I am Zach Barnett. Let's get into this interview today. But before that, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our up-to-date content. Let's get into the interview. So with your high school years, with the process of football, what was some of your favorite moments as a football player on and off the field?
There was so the 4 years of high school football that I played, 3 of them were in Canada where I grew up. And my senior year of high school was at Kent Roosevelt High School, the Rough Riders in Kent, Ohio. And the reason for that move was solely for the purpose of getting exposure to get recruited to make it to the next level, because that was my goal. My brother was going to Kent State University, so that's why I went to Kent Roosevelt High School. I ended up living with him for a year. But, there's a couple experiences I remember. Like, there was one in Canada where we were playing for, like, the league championship, which was not that big a deal because high school football in Canada is not a very big deal. I mean, honestly, the bleachers, like when I went back home a few years ago, the bleachers that are there, which hold about 20 people, and they're stainless steel, they'll last forever, right? They won't rust or anything through the winters. Almost seem like the same bleachers that were there when I played 40 years ago in high school. It's just not that big a deal in Canada, although there's been some great athletes, football players and other athletes obviously come from Canada that have played in the NFL. So we were playing in the league championship again, which is not as big a deal as if you were playing in a Ohio or Texas or Florida league championship. And we had to kick a field goal to win it. And our field goal kicker was a soccer player. And he was also a football player, but he was a soccer player. So he had a leg and he kicked really well. And he just, he missed it. Not by much. It was almost kind of like could have went either way. And it was just it was so heartbreaking because even at a young age like that, it's like I'm sure as many athletes do that love their sport, you pour your heart and soul into it. And you give it everything you got, and I think it's, when you play with a team, I think that team unity and that camaraderie is so important. And then, to lose in that league championship like that was definitely heartbreaking. I remember, like, I could visualize it just like it was yesterday, walking off the field. And the funny thing is, there was maybe 100 people at the game watching the game, and it's interesting in comparison to the story I'm about to tell you. So I go down to Ohio, my senior year of high school, and Kent Roosevelt has a stadium that holds about 8,000 to 10,000 people. Their high school stadium, football stadium. And, it'd be typically easily, the stands would be, full of people at every home game. And I remember being like, just kind of like being in awe, like this is like the big time. Like this is like American high school football is big time. And back then, and I think it still is in Ohio, but back then you had something like, 5 of your top 10 teams in the country ranking wise were out of Ohio. You had Canton, McKinley, Cincinnati, Moeller. You had, I want to say maybe, if I'm not mistaken, like a St. Ignatius, or it was a Catholic school up north towards Cleveland. But it's like high school football in Ohio was big time. It was bigger than a lot of different states. It was big time in Pennsylvania. It was big time in Florida and Texas also. California, yeah, but for as big as California was, it didn't seem like it was as big. Now, those are all like, powerhouse states for high school football.
Definitely.
And I still think Ohio and Pennsylvania, for some reason, it's interesting because they're kind of like in the middle of the country and they're there's really nothing special about those states. But when you look at Pennsylvania, look at all the great quarterbacks that come out of there. It's crazy. But yeah, just like playing in a game, and the level of coaching was so different because you know, it would be, I would imagine I could compare it to the analogy of, is if you took an American kid that was going into a senior year of high school and he moved to Canada to play hockey. So the level of coaching he would get with hockey is a lot different than he would probably get in the States. Now that probably has changed over the last 30 years and has probably narrowed the gap. But back then the gap was pretty big with high school football, and for me it was kind of like wow, like these guys are like serious about what they're doing, and that's what I expected, and I was glad that they were serious.
This concludes our episode today, folks. We greatly appreciate the support. And if you're not a subscriber yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all our up-to-date content. And if you like this video, hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. We welcome you back next time.